I was reading an article this week and it was quite interesting. It was about how to grow a tree or a plant from the very seed itself. And it gave a lot of information about the very seed. And one of the things that it mentioned was that a viable and living seed contains this healthy embryonic tissue within inside of it. And also, all fully developed seeds have this embryo. And in most plant species, there's even this store of food preserved in the shell. Then, for its growth, obviously, there is the environmental conditions that are necessary, including the temperature, the moisture, the air, and the light conditions. And sometimes a seed will even lie dormant and not grow, even in the optimal conditions, and perhaps grow at another time. And at times, its dormancy will help it pass through unsurvivable conditions and then grow when the conditions are optimal. And in order for the seed to grow, it requires all these outside effects to take place without its help. In one sense, it's helpless to grow without these conditions. And I found it quite fascinating. When the reality of when a seed kind of breaks out of its shell, the primary root emerges, and the primary root anchors the plant to the ground and allows it to start absorbing water. This plant begins to set its roots firmly in the ground, and the roots kind of grasp the ground to hold it in place, and it becomes stable and continually wait for the rains. And in one sense, our lives are like a seed before the revelation of Christ reaches our hearts and minds. As we wait for the right conditions, and even with all the odd teachings in the world, our ears and minds and hearts might even lie dormant until the truth kind of breaks through. For what we have received as Christians is a supernatural revelation from God Himself. For mankind can reason to God through the philosophical science, but he cannot come to Christ, God's saving plan. This is a real revelation from the living God, of which we can only receive by grace. Therefore, it's important for us as Christians to realize that we're immersed in a divine mystery, which we seek to communicate to the best of our abilities. Therefore, when you and I were baptized, it was not us who chose Christ, but in a mysterious way, He chose us to follow Him and continue His mission in the world. St. Peter mentions in his letter, your rebirth or your baptism has come not from a destructible, but from an indestructible seed, where we received a share in the life of God. And the more we are aware of this, the more we set our roots down in the church, recognizing the saving flow of grace and mercy from the Word of God and from the sacramental life. But more radically, it's God's seed that broke open and anchored His roots in us to heal our wounds and strengthen us to follow Him and go on mission for Christ, to bring Him to all people, to those who are lying dormant, who may not receive Christ this year or the next, and also to those who at this moment may have all the optimal conditions in their life to receive Christ. And the whole of it is a mystery that we communicate, not as something fully understood, but as something we continue to understand the more we live it out, seeking to die to sin, and the more we anchor our roots in the gospel of Christ. Sometimes all it takes is a simple invitation to come and worship. For who knows how Christ will grasp their mind and heart? For the liturgy is a real saving action of Christ that we participate in, where we really experience God's holy presence operative in our lives.